Hey guys, I'm Joe with Moto Strano, and I'm taking a little stroll here on a Thursday morning on a Cube Touring Pro 400, and I thought I'd take a moment to chat with you in this beautiful setting about battery range on the Bosch system and other systems, and just kind of give you the lay of the land from my perspective of having ridden and used and sold and serviced a lot of these e-bikes over the past 9 years. Battery life has come a long way. Batteries are more compact and have more cells and more watt hours compacted into them. And of course we're buying the e-bike for the assistance, and we prefer to get something with the maximum amount of range. And so the number one and number two question that people ask me when they are in the quote-unquote research stages of checking out e-bikes, or they're comparing models, is, what's the real range on these things? How many miles can I expect to get on a battery? And what I like to tell people is kind of an average based on real world experience. And that is, for instance, with the Bosch system, I informed people that they can get up to 90 miles on a battery, which in actuality you can actually get more. And that's with a given certain kind of circumstances and conditions. And then on the low end, you can expect somewhere around 30 or 40 miles, again under certain conditions and circumstances. The Bosch system is really one of the best, but these numbers apply both to the Yamaha, to the Bros, to the Shimano, to all the better mid-drive systems that I'm talking about. When we first started selling e-bikes, there were brands like Stromer and A to B that barely got 20 miles on a charge. There were heavier bikes. Some of them still are heavier bikes, so they need a bigger motor, bigger battery, and more torque to really get it going. And some of them, like Stromer, is really focused on speed. I think they've improved over the years, but we don't dabble in Stromer very much anymore, except on the service side. So for the Bosch system and these mid-drive systems, it's got a range indicator. As you can see, this one's telling me I have 39 miles range on this, and I've got 4 bars. I started this ride with 4 bars, and the rangefinder is actually very accurate, again depending on how you ride it, and it depends on who's riding it, when, where, and all kinds of other factors. A really good experienced rider with really strong legs, or even just somebody who's in pretty good shape, is going to ride their e-bike in eco mode most of the time, and a lot of times that rider is even going to turn the power off where it makes sense to do so, like in the flat terrain. Other kind of rider is going to be in turbo mode all the time. That's usually the new rider who's in not the best of shape yet, because they haven't been riding, because they're recovering from life, as I say, and so they're getting on the bike with using the maximum amount of assistance, really as a tool just to get up the hill and not have a big amount of strain on the body in the meantime. So in the kind of riding conditions you have and the rider, and it also has a lot to do with rider weight. It also has to do with the type of bike, the gearing, whether it's a full suspension or a touring bike. Like this bike I'm on now is made for touring, so it's more of a long distance bike. It does have a front fork, but it's got no rear shock. A lot of older guys come into our store wanting a comfort commuter bike, in the vein of they believe they have something in mind, like a motorcycle or even their car, where you've got front and rear suspension, and that suspension is soaking up bumps and potholes to the maximum so that the rider is not feeling any impact there. Well, the riding, your body on a bicycle is supposed to feel a little bit of impact. Well, that's why we're riding a bicycle and not sitting in a car. But adding that extra weight, adding that suspension is going to rob you of power that's going down to the motor, as well as adding extra weight that the motor has to lug around and you have to pedal around. So it's usually not the most effective type of bike to be thinking about range. Of course, you can always carry a second battery. I'm riding actually this bike with the mileage that it has and the range it has. This is a 400 watt battery. Of course, Bosch does the 500s. There's an advantage. You may not see it right now. There's an advantage to having lower wattage battery. You get a lighter bike. You get to constrain yourself and make sure that you're getting a physical workout as well as a pleasurable ride. I'm planning only about a 15-mile ride up Kings Mountain today, so the battery that I've got here is going to do me just fine. Other factors that influence here, you can see that I'm only cruising right now up this hill about 4 miles an hour. If I was in a different gear and I was really pushing it, I could get maybe 10, even 15 miles an hour on this less steep incline that I'm on right now. But then my range is going to disappear pretty quickly. So the biggest thing that you can do to conserve battery range, like I say, is to keep your power settings in eco, and in particular, turn the battery and motor off entirely when you're going flat or even a moderate incline. You may not want to do this if you're a brand new rider, because you're relying on the bike to do even basic riding, because you just don't have the power yet. But as you get more skilled, as you build up power in your body and your legs, you'll be able to do that. Frankie, who you've seen on these videos, he rides his fat bikes touring. It's the worst possible bike you could take touring for the drag and weight of the bike. He rides that bike 90% of the time with the motor off. So he'll only use the battery for those steep inclines, or when he's trying to get to a campground late at night and needs to get there. That's for recreational riding. Of course, if you're commuting, here's something that we are all in a rush, but you can get a lot more range out of your bike if you just slow down. I know you're trying to beat traffic, you're trying to get to work on time, you're trying to look good for the boss, make the sale, bring home the bacon and stuff like that, but riding is also about being healthy, having a sound way of living, and I believe that requires us to slow down a little bit, smell the roses, enjoy the view a little bit, enjoy the commute, and in doing so you also tend to get into less incidences, risk of crashing and stuff like that. So you can do whatever you want. I'm just kind of passing on my recommendations here, and they tend to be based on the systems we sell, which are these Bosch, Yamaha, Shimano, Bros mid-drive systems. There are, of course, e-bike kits and products out there with 1,000-watt motors and 2,000-watt motors and 2,000-watt batteries and all kinds of systems you can get. There's bikes with 2 batteries installed on the bike itself. That's a really heavy machine. I'm not really into those. We don't sell those, so I'm really focused on these consumer-friendly products. Stuff that my dad could get on, and he's a tinkerer, but he wouldn't need to tinker around on this thing and futz around and call China when there's a warranty problem. We just go into a regular old e-bike shop like Motor Strano, and you can get stuff diagnosed, get parts, that kind of thing. That's why I like Bosch system and Yamaha system, etc. So other things you want to do is just always, of course, keep your battery charged. Your lithium batteries are great stuff. You don't have to wait for the battery to get to a certain point before you can charge it, but you do want to charge it regularly. I don't advise you to leave the thing sitting more than a month or so without getting a charge. And yeah, just get out and enjoy the bike. Oh, also another huge factor with range, on top of the the rider skills, rider abilities, is just inflation of your tires. So tire pressure, huge advantage if you keep a pump on your bike, keep one handy, and keep that tire pressure up. On this bike, I even have it a little bit low right now. I think it's only around 50 pounds. Tire pressure on this probably should be more like 60 or 70 at least, and that would give me a little bit more range. Now you can see on that little steep part of the road here, I lost a lot of range. Now it'll recalibrate itself with the Bosch system. I'm gonna hit the reset button and that number will recalibrate based on the last some odd feet of travel. So now it's back up to 53 miles range, and as long as I keep up the power and I stay on this flat kind of terrain, that will be true. So that's my spiel on battery range, I think. If you have any questions, give us a call, post a comment to our video. Just make sure you get out and ride as much as you can. Stay off the bus, stay out of the car. I mean, cars, look at them. This guy can barely even make this turn. I'm gonna scoot around him. There's probably gonna be 5 people on that bus. And it's amazing how inefficient cars are for just getting around in tight areas, traffic zone areas. Just getting to this riding area here, I had to drive, and people coming out of their neighborhood in traffic out here in this beautiful nature. They're in traffic just to get to work. So that's it. Happy riding. Avoid the traffic, bust your commute, and I'll see you on the trail.